Let me explain to you, I'm saying.
What you saying?
It's not even like that.
It wasn't like that, but I saw you.
Baby, I don't love her.
You don't love me? You know what? I don't even want to talk to you.
She don't mean nothing to me.
I don't want to see your face.
She was just telling me.
I just want to see you walking through that
baby,
door. There ain't nothing else to say.
Why we gotta do it like this? Baby, damn.
Coming home late, it seems you barely beat the sun. Tapping my shoulder, thinking you gon' get you some. Smelling like some fragrance that I don't even wear. So if you want some loving, I suggest you go back there where you came from. Day to day with you is always something else. Working my nerve, God knows that I don't deserve what you put me through. Cause I've been so true to you. For you to come at me with another lame excuse. See, I heard it all before. All of your lies, all of your sweet talk. Baby this, baby that. But your lies ain't working now. Now, look who's hurting now. Look who's hurting now. I had to shut you down. I had to shut you down. Play the fool before. Play the fool before. I was your fool. I believed in you, yes I did, yes I did. But your lies ain't working, lies ain't working now. Look who's hurting now, look who's hurting now. I had to shut you down, I had to shut you down. What were you thinking, bringing her into our home? In our bed, you must have fell and bumped your head, messing up my sheets and violating me. I'm about to call my peace and take it to the streets. Nothing you can do, and there's nothing you can say that could persuade me to stay with you another day. You have crossed the line to the point of no return. What you do from here on out, I am no longer concerned. See, I heard it all before. Let me explain. Not what you think, that's what you said to me. But your lies ain't working now. Now, look who's hurting now. Now, I had to shut you down. Had to shut you down. Now, played the fool before. You had a good game, I must admit. I was it, but now it's over. But your lies ain't working now. Now, look who's hurting now. Look who's hurting now. I had to shut you down. Every word, but the more you lied to me, the more I heard. The things you used to say would sound so sweet. I was naive, quick to believe. Heard it all before. I was at work. It wasn't my car you saw, baby. I swear it wasn't me. But your lies ain't working, lies ain't working now. Who's hurting
Well, all right, all right, all right. Good evening, good evening, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Breaking the Glass Ceiling, a woman's journey. I want to hear all about their journey. So, on behalf of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, Iota Chi chapter, we want to welcome you all. I am Francois Filsamy, the Executive Director of Cornerstone Collaborative, Massachusetts. You all could have been anywhere this evening, but you are here tonight to listen to these amazing individuals and to hear what they have to bring as far as their journey. I will start off first and foremost as well, sharing who are illustrious, esteemed panelists. We're starting off with Naisha Bradley Forrester, Associate Dean of Diversity and Inclusion and Belonging at Harvard University's Graduate School of Design. All right, all right. Next up, we got Erin McGrath. Erin is the Executive Director at Boston Partners in Education. We also have Andrea Baez, the Senior Branch Executive Director of the YMCA of the Metro Lynn Branch. All right. I was about to say Dorchester. Moving right along, we have Rochelle Levy Christopher, the founder and CEO of the Black Literacy and Arts Collaborative Project. We have Marie Duchesne, the Senior Business Systems Consultant. Bonnie J. Walker, Director of Equity and Inclusion at Worcester Academy. And we have Legina Tavares, the Vice President, Consumer Banking and Service Coach for Webster Bank. Welcome, once again, welcome, welcome, welcome. And as well as our audience. So we're gonna get things moving. We're gonna get things started with some questions. And these questions that we have for you this evening will go as such. We're gonna start out real loose, just to kind of get a feel of, where you are, where you're from, what you like, what you didn't like, potentially growing up. So here we go. First soft question. Fruit Loops or Fruity Pebbles?
Fruity Pebbles.
Fruit Loops.
Fruit Loops.
Yeah, Fruit Loops.
Fruit Loops.
Okay.
Fruity Pebbles.
All right. So here we go. Here we go. Again, when the spirit moves you, you can just jump on in. So the question is, restate your name. Where were you born and raised? And what steps did you take to get in the current position you are in your career? If you like, I can restate it. Again, for you to restate your name, where you were born and raised, what steps did you take to get in the current position you are in your current role and career? Go.
I can jump in, Francois.
Okay.
Hello, hello. Good evening, everybody. My name is Legina Tavares, Consumer Banking Sales and Service Coach at Webster Bank. I was born in New York City, but I moved to Rhode Island as a baby and was raised here. Spent most of my childhood in Pawtucket, but have lived in Cranston for the most part as an adult. I went to Rhode Island College, which is when I started at Webster Bank. I was looking for a career where I could really grow and develop and see myself for a long time. So that was my reason for looking for a position in banking. And never did I think that 15 years later, I would still be with Webster, but it had a lot to do with a lot of the mentors that I met along the way who really guided me and helped shape my vision for what a career was going to look like, and really to help maximize, taking all of the steps and the progression that I could right at Webster. So I attributed it a lot to, again, the mentors that I had, the folks that I met along the way, a lot of them that I can think of right off the top of my head. But those were really the ways that I was able to take advantage of kind of what I had in front of me and take steps to grow along in my career.
I'll jump in. Good evening, everybody. I'm so happy to be here this evening. I want to thank you, Francois, for having me amongst this esteemed panel of amazing women, first and foremost. I'm Bonnie Walker, of course. I grew up in Hanover, New Hampshire until I was 18 years old, home to Dartmouth College, a very homogeneous, mostly white, small liberal arts college town. So I played sports. I love basketball. I played basketball in college. I was very academically driven, and I actually loved the environment I grew up in, but I always knew as a young woman that there was more than this bubble that I lived in Hanover, New Hampshire. I wanted more culture. I wanted more diversity. I wanted to explore my roots. As a biracial woman, there were not very many kids of color in my school, and let alone, people of color or Black people in my town. So I went on to Clark University in Worcester, Massachusetts, which is shocking to myself that I still reside here. 20 years later, I guess I kind of own Worcester now as my hometown. For so many years, I said I grew up in Hanover and that was my hometown. But I guess what has driven me is just a very foundational baseline that was given to my parents for a thirst and a value for education. And also, I guess, coupled with education, social justice. So I don't know if you all know the shortest poem in the world, that at least that I know of, is Me, We by Muhammad Ali. And that really resonates with me. Me, we. So it's not just about I, it's about us. And that was very intrinsic in my educational values growing up, that everything that I was privileged with, and I did grow up with a good amount of privilege, I was supposed to pay it forward and give it to other people. So most of my career has been dedicated to serving underrepresented and underserved populations, of course, in education. And so that's what drives me. That's what excites me. And I also think it's an extension of my purpose.
Happy to jump in. My name is Naisha Bradley. I am born and raised in Boston, Dorchester and Hyde Park areas. So I started off at Harvard University 15 years ago as an executive assistant. And I am what you would call a class migrant. So the socioeconomic class that I navigate in now is not the socioeconomic class that I was born into. And given that, navigating my career, I had to be really mindful of strengthening my network and leaning on mentors and sponsors. So I'm very purposeful in terms of what steps did I take to get to the space that I'm in now. I'm very purposeful around asks I make every 2 to 3 years. I ask for something in my job every 2 to 3 years, whether it's a raise, whether it's a promotion, additional responsibility. I'm constantly in a space where I'm mastering what I have and then asking for the next thing. And then I am very mindful about conducting a resume audit every year. So every year I look at my resume, I think about where I want to be, and some people who are in positions that I want to be in, and I look them up and see what are some of the things that these people have. So for instance, there was a person that I looked at a couple of years ago and I said, wow, this person has a lot of board experience and I don't have any experience on a board. And so then I made it my mission that year to become a part of a board. So I'm really mindful and really intentional about my next steps. And that's how I have guided my career thus far.
I'll jump in. My name is Andrea Baez. I am the Senior Branch Executive for the Lynn YMCA. I am born and raised in Winthrop, Mass. What did I do to get where I currently am? I hustled every single day. I got up and I worked hard and I went the extra mile and put myself on a committee and put myself on another committee and a board and asked for extra responsibility and what can I do next? And then I found fabulous partners and I embraced them and I embraced their work. And that elevated me through the Y and through the Y system. So 15 years later, which seems to be the magic number, ladies, it seems to be like 15 is our magic number. 15 years into the Y, I started as an after school site director and now I'm about to open a $31 million facility next month.
I'll go next. My name is Marie Duchen. I was born in Zaire, today known as the Democratic Republic of Congo. My parents are Haitian. I was raised in Boston, Massachusetts. I currently live in Atlanta, Georgia. And my path was very jagged. I went to undergrad at Northeastern University in Boston for civil engineering. My first job out of college was at a civil engineering consulting firm in New York City. Imagine this, you're 20 something years old in New York City as your first job. What an intimidating sight. While I was there, I met a lot of people who needed help and guidance in the IT world, which I had no previous background. So I pivoted from civil engineering into the IT world, and that's where I live today. Today, I work for a major financial services institution as an IT person, as you say. I work on projects. My role is more so of the liaison between the project team and operations. So I review all the requirements for the project. I go back and forth with the project team and make sure that it be supported by operations. That's basically my role in a nutshell. I'm glad to be here this evening with you all. Thank you.
I can jump in next. My name is Rochelle Levy-Christopher. I am the founder and CEO of the Black Literacy and Arts Collaborative Project. I was born in New York, raised in Spanish Harlem. I was very poor. Very, very poor. There were no resources available to us. So my days outside of school were filled with programs from the Salvation Army. And I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the fact that the Salvation Army is a church first. And because it was such a nurturing environment, I was there all the time. It's because of them that I know how to play 5 instruments. It's because of them that I'm able to do a lot of what I do now. And I wanted to create something that would bring resources into the community in a more personalized way. And that's how I came upon creating the Black Project. How I ended up in Boston, where I live now, is my parents in the Salvation Army get moved from city to city from different communities that are in need. So they got moved after I graduated high school. So I attended Suffolk University for business management, and I'm currently working on my master's for social psychology. And I just want to bring a very unique way of impacting and uplifting our communities through art, culture, and activism. And my main goal is to really create an equitable starting point between Black, Indigenous, and other persons of color and their white peers through, very much through, literacy and artistic expression.
So briefly, again, I'm Erin McGrath. I'm the executive director at Boston Partners in Education. I was born in Littleton, Massachusetts, which is about 45 minutes outside of the city. And when I was a kid, it was still very much the country. It's not so much anymore, but it was pretty rural back then. Went to school at Hartwood College in Oneonta, New York. And about that time when I finished college, I realized I was done with living in rural places. So I decided I wanted to come back to Boston and be in the city. I started in my career actually with Boston Partners more than 15 years ago as a volunteer. So I started back in 2001 as a volunteer in Boston Public Schools. And then at the time I was working for a consulting company and not loving it. I thought that I was going to go be a teacher. Saw a position at this place I had been volunteering through and said, well, I'll do that as a stop along the way to this teaching thing that I want to do. But the more I got into this behind the scenes work and managing volunteers, the more I realized I really loved that. And I was passionate about bringing equity and education to all of our students. And so since then, I really, I also, like a lot of the other women who spoke before me, had great mentors along the way who encouraged me to think bigger than I was. And just, I think a lot of folks said, a lot of hard work and paying attention to opportunities to make things better, really taking those chances to do a little more, to offer solutions. And that's how I got to where I am.
So we're going to keep this very interactive. And thank you for sharing all of your backgrounds. So this next question actually is going to be more of a polling question. Okay. So this gives you and the audience an opportunity to provide your thoughts before the guests, actually the panelists, are able to answer in full. So the question, and you should see the question pop up as the poll. Oh, gee, abracadabra! All right, so here we go. Boom shakalaka. What age did you feel empowered that you as a woman could accomplish anything that a man could do? So obviously this is applicable to the young ladies and women that are on. Again, what age did you feel empowered that you as a woman could accomplish anything that a man could do? We'll be closing up the polls in a matter of seconds. So put your answer in. All right, the results are in. Age 20 plus, 56%. Okay. Now, moving right along. Your next question is this. The question is, what does women's history mean to you? What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that look like? Women's history.
I'll jump in. So women's history to me is the ladies who paved the way for us. And like so many of these fabulous panelists had said that they have mentors that kind of lift as they climb. I think of women's history as exactly that. So the women who lifted as they were climbing to clear the path for us. And I see, I guess, my responsibility as a woman is to do it for the generation behind me, because there always will be a challenge. There will always be a new obstacle. And as we navigate it as women together, women's history kind of gives us that foundation for those women who did it before we did. And, with the passing of RGB this summer, I think a lot of young staff of mine got very awestruck when they heard if it wasn't for her, they wouldn't be able to have a mortgage with their own name on it or a credit card. And that was her trailblazing. So I just think that paving that way for those who come behind us, that's what women's history is, because that foundation that we've given as women obviously has paved the way for us to do the work that we're doing today.
I echo the same things that Andrea and all the other panelists have said as well. I stand on the shoulders of my mom, her mother, my aunts, their mothers, and all the other women that have come in contact with me throughout my lifetime. With Women's History is the time to celebrate and reflect on all the successes and even their failures, right? Because you learn from your failures and how to do it better the next time. It's an important time for everyone, not just for women, but also for the men, to look at what we've done collectively, individually, and how we want to press forward for the future.
So I'll jump in. It's interesting. I sat with this question a little bit because I wanted to really push myself for what it truly meant for me as a woman, as a daughter, and as a mom to a little girl. And I think for me, in addition to the celebration and the historic reflection, it means that we aren't in a place where we need to be in, as a society. I think it means that we're not centering women and their experiences and contributions to the history of America in a consistent way throughout the year. And it means that we have work to do. And it's a reminder of that. So that's what it means for me.
I'll add, I agree with kind of both sides, the sentiment of how it should be celebrated and who we're celebrating historically, and also that we aren't there yet. And I guess what I would add to those things is, for me, the first thing that flashes in my mind when I think of Women's History Month is hope, because of the women that lifted us, and because of the children that we're looking back at or down at, that we're trying to bring along, but also knowing that things aren't equitable, things aren't equal, that we do have a lot of work to do. But I think the women that did so much before us, and in some times that were so much harder, in some ways, in harder times, it gives me hope that we will get there, and that we can do it, and that we can pass it on to our daughters to pave their own way also.
I'll jump in. I couldn't agree more with everything that's already been said. I think the only thing that I can add is, one of the things that I sit back and reflect on Women's History Month so far is the education. I feel like I know a lot, right? Just from my own reading and learning and development and growth, but there's so much being shared now. I feel like every day I'm learning something new about a new woman who did something, or some piece of history that I didn't know about. So the education for me for Women's History Month has been huge. Of course, we look back and celebrate how far we've come, and I couldn't agree more that we have still a very long way to go.
Okay. Now, again, this is our time to go into a little polling, right? And as I mentioned before and stated, in a matter of seconds, the poll will show up on your screen, and there you have it. And there you have it. Since Women's History Month is now being observed for nearly 50 years now, how far do you believe women have come in this country? Again, since Women's History Month is now being observed for nearly 50 years now, how far do you believe women have come in this country? Whoa. think, oh, wait a minute. Time out. Wait a minute. I think we're done. 38%. We still have lots of work to do. Well, with that being said, ladies, take it away.
I mean, I can start here in terms of us having a lot of work to do. You know, when we talk about how far women have come, you know, I really think about money, to be quite frank. I think about our ability not only to have careers, but to be able to navigate through those careers to the very top of the careers. And right now we're in a space where most of our Fortune 500 CEOs are men, are white men. We are not at a place of equal pay right now. We have not yet had a woman president, right? Until we can see women, it's not just enough to break through in different industries, but being able to get into these industries and rise to the very top, for me, tells us that what we've really accomplished, right? And so I don't want to devalue all of the strides that women have made to this point, but that's why I sit in the space of having much further to go.
I agree. And I think that there are a lot of other facets that don't get taken into account. I think about how women are still very much expected to take up most of the responsibilities in the home, for example. I remember going to a panel, sort of like this one, but at the women's conference years ago, and it was talking all about how you could have balance in your life. But the assumption was still that you were going to have children and you were going to be the one to take care of them, and you had to figure out how to get the person in your life to help out with that. You know, that's something we need to work on. And then, of course, when you talk about the pay equity, you know, it's not equal for any women, but it's worse for Black, Indigenous, and people of color. It's worse for trans women. You know, we have not made all of the strides we need to make in those arenas.
Well, all right. With that, here's my next stuff. As a matter of fact, you know what? We're gonna shake it up again. So I don't know why I'm sticking on this whole theme of cereal. I just like cereal. Cornflakes, Frosted Flakes.
Frosted Flakes.
Frosted Flakes.
Like, what kind of question is that?
What type of question does it sound like?
Frosted Flakes.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, I'm going to be the weirdo and go with the cornflakes.
What's going on?
He's like, if you don't get out of here, I'm going to throw this box of cornflakes at you. What's the most important advice have you ever received as far as a life lesson, and who gave it to you, and where did you get it from? If you like, I can ask again. What's the most important advice have you ever received as far as a life lesson, and who gave it to you, or where did you get it from?
My stepmother once told me, Rochelle, you only need to get it right once. And that stuck with me. She was like, you can, failure is the best teacher. And with that lesson, keep trying until you get it right once. Once you get it right, that's it. You're done. You got it. And I took that and I applied it to every area of my life. And I live by that. Just keep trying, keep trying. You only need to get it right once.
I actually had two that came to mind right away. One is from my mom, one is from my dad. So and similar to you, Rochelle, just kind of applying it everywhere, right? But my mom always said, if you're going to do something, do it right or don't do it at all. And my dad always said, if you have a problem, you resolve it by resolving it, not by dwelling on it, in Spanish. So it sounds a little quirky in English, but those are the two life lessons that I carry with me throughout everything, my personal life, my work life, and all of the above.
I'm happy. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead, please.
I'm happy to share. So, my mother shared with me, so I was a child who was bullied often. And she said, what other people think of you is none of your business. Learn to mind your business. And that has stuck with me forever and ever. Also, this idea that what you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to do in life, everyone's not going to understand. When God gave you a calling, it wasn't a conference call. So I'm very mindful of who I not only give a listening ear to, but who I share my hopes and dreams with. And then the last one would be, if you're in a situation that you don't like, move. You are not a tree. Because we get in this space where we feel like, where we are very resistant to change, and we feel like the situation we're in is a situation we have to be in. But it reminds me often that I have agency and I can be where I decide to be.
I'm gonna have to write that one down. I like that.
I like that one too. I think that's a great one.
Yeah.
So I had a wonderful mentor in my career who still mentors me from the Y. And she sat me down one day when I was at a crossroads of my career and said, Andrea, know your worth, know what you bring to the table, and do not be afraid to eat alone. And that has stuck with me forever, because as we navigate professionally and personally as women, you know, those glass ceilings have to be broken. And sometimes you have to eat alone. Sometimes you just have to go forward and do it. And that has stuck with me. And I try to instill that in my young staff. And I try to instill that in my middle school age daughter, who needs to hear those lessons.
I have so many that come to mind, to be honest. It's hard to choose because I've had a lot of great people and mentors around me, and I'm a pretty good listener. So to narrow it is challenging, but I will say, I think most important, particularly for women in the world, the society that we live in, and all of the messages around us, know thyself and love thyself. I think when you know yourself, it directs everything that you do and everything that you choose, and it makes you intentional about every decision that you make. And that very much directs your personal life, your career, your environment. You know, people talk about balance, but if you don't know yourself, how do you find your equilibrium? If you don't love yourself, how do you know when to say no and when to say yes? If you don't know yourself and love yourself, how do you show up authentically? How do you pull other people up? How do you give to a community and love other people if it doesn't start with you? You know, your values, the jobs that you choose, the things that you choose to do in the positions that you have, what you stand up for is in alignment with who you are. If you know yourself and you know your values, you will not take certain jobs. You will not push certain agendas. You will be very intentional about your words. So I think knowing yourself and loving yourself is probably number one. And I want to reiterate again, especially for women, because society tells little girls and big grown-up women not to know yourself, to be sometimes anything but who you are, and certainly not to love yourself if you're trying to be somebody else.
I've always heard that women can have it all. My problem is I wanted to have it all at the same time. You can't do it all at the same time. You have to pick a goal, work on that goal. You don't have to know how you're going to achieve that goal. You just have to set it in motion and then start taking baby steps towards that goal. And once you achieve it, you're on to the next goal. That's the way that we should be living our lives, not trying to be stressed and get overwhelmed by all the different stressors in life. Just take them one piece at a time. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, a little bit. That's the valuable lesson that I was taught.
Well, thank you. Here's the question, excuse me, that I have for you, which is another polling question, right? So it is, and it goes as such. Were there any times you hit a low point? Well, as a matter of fact, let me take that back. I'll wait till it pops right up. Bang! Were there any times you hit a low point in your life? You got once or twice, you got many times, you got not at all. Uh-oh. Woo! Good Lord! All right, so we got many times at 75%. So again, the question was, were there any times you hit a low point in your life? So I would follow up with that, outside of saying if you hit any low points, at that point, if we're able to share, you can. If you feel that you don't want to share, that's fine too, in terms of, what was that point and how did you get out of it? So again, were there any times you hit a low point in your life? If so, and if you would like to share, what was it? And if you'd like to share, how did you get out of it?
Ooh, this one's burning, Francois.
They're like, my seat's hot.
So I'm sure we all have plenty of moments that we can think and share. But I think of one. One came to mind right away when I read this question, and it was right after my second baby. I was about 3 years into the role that I had at that time. And I was, festering in my new momness, and I just felt like I needed something more, and I didn't know where or what, but I was kind of struggling with figuring all of that out. Now balancing 2 babies instead of 1, really having that gap in between them. So it was like starting all over, kind of sitting in my career, like, okay, I've mastered this thing, what's next? So I was really just like looking for some kind of direction for myself. And also, I think I had a lot of that mom guilt happening. So I think just really trying to find a way to not have it all, Marie, and take little bites. And, what were those steps that I was going to take? And one of the things that I did was I had wanted to start reading again for a very long time, loved reading, somehow came across Shonda Rhimes' Year of Yes. And my goodness, did that book change my whole situation, environment, perspective at that time. I think it was just the right book at the right time. Really talked a lot about, being a woman of color in, a corporate type role or, a bigger job. I saw her perspective, balancing the things that have to do with, mom duties, and figuring out that you can say yes to things. And it talked a lot about when you say no to things. And, I think that was what I needed to get direction on, was where do you start to prioritize your time? What are the things that you need to focus on to really get you, vibing towards that next thing that your body and your soul is searching for. So for me, that was a time. For me, that's what got me through, really changed a lot for me, and still love and value that book till this day.
Don't feel pressed.
For me, I feel like all of last year, right, was a low point. It was like a domino effect. So COVID hit, and then like, I don't know if it was just everybody in my family's old or whatever it is. Everybody started dying. I was like, okay, okay, okay. Um, so I normally don't reach out for help, right? I feel like that's a woman thing in general. A lot of women feel like they're super women, and we are. But we can't do it alone. So reaching out to my tribe, asking for help, emotional support, and things like that, just to get through, watching friends die, family members die, trying to build up the Black Project in the midst of all of that, trying to help the community and not really prioritize myself, and my mental emotional well-being. So it got really low, and we can't be scared to be vulnerable and to be transparent and to say, to our trusted circle, hey, this is going on, I need help, can you help me? So that's very important. Do not feel too proud to ask for help.
Francois, I wonder if I can lean into a question that was posed in the chat.
Yes.
And the question was a follow-up to an earlier question, and James is asking, why did it take many of you to reach your 20s to feel that you could do anything a man could do? What in our society, American culture, made you feel that way? And I wanted to tackle that question because I actually, it didn't take me into being in my 20s. While I understand that, that wasn't my journey. So I always questioned the way society framed leadership. And I think it was for two reasons. One, I had a very active and working mother who was a leader in her own right, professionally and in our home, along with my father. So I was in a home that was co-led. And then I had very active mentors, but also I went to an all-girls high school. And so everything I saw in terms of leadership, I was the president of the class and the president of student council and blah, blah, blah. But everyone who was in spaces of leadership were already women. So I didn't go into a space questioning what women could do. I left my high school experience and went to Clark Atlanta University, which is an historically Black college, right? And so what was important for me to understand was, so I am, as a woman who is Black, who is dark, who has, short hair and doesn't navigate the standard beauty politic, right? It was helpful for me to understand how, not only who I was, but how I was viewed. And by understanding how I was viewed, that helped me be able to easily read a room and shift things in my favor. So I was never in a space where I believe women could not do, but I had to understand, because I am a woman who is a Black, dark-skinned woman, there are certain expectations people have of me or don't have of me, right? And how do I navigate around those expectations to get what I want, right?
Thank you. I wanted to make sure that everyone was able to answer the previous question as well before we go on to the 8. Question number 8. So is everyone good? Are we all right? Okay. As a matter of fact, here it is. This question here actually is going to cause you to put your answer actually in the chat. But not only that, obviously, by you putting your answer in the chat, I'll be going back to our illustrious panelists and ask them for more definition or expounding upon the word that they chose. So I almost let the cat out the bag. So if there is one word to describe your journey as a woman in life and within your career, what would it be? One word. Oh, there it is. If there is one word to describe your journey as a woman in life, within your career, what would it be? What's that one word? Don't be shy. Again. All right. We all in? Okay. All right. Why did you pick your word? And say your word again. Don't have me start calling people. Rochelle, why did you say resilient?
I knew he was gonna call on me.
And we're like this.
I think it goes back to that advice that I was given, right? You only need to get it right once. So I just never quit. It's even motivation to me to have doors closed in my face or to be told that I can't, because I'm like, all right, move out the way, watch me do this. I want to show and prove that women, especially Black women, are not just extraordinary, but phenomenal. So with that said, you can't give up. You have to keep pushing. So that's why I chose resilient for my word.
Looks like I have to still call on people.
I chose the word ambitious.
All right now, get in there, get in there, get in there.
Because
make a play.
I went to St. Kevin's Elementary. There, I'm just gonna give you a little scenario. I was athletic. I beat everyone in running there at school. I always pushed myself from that point to the point that I'm today because I didn't always have a model within my family for where I wanted to be. Meaning, I became an engineer. There were no engineers that I knew of in my family. So I had to hustle, figure out who in my network can give me the guidance, right? So that's the ambitious part of me. And then there's the Aries fire side in me that just keeps pushing no matter what to get that goal. I am goal oriented and I won't stop until I get it. That's it.
Well, Erin, you up.
Okay, so I went with curiosity because I feel like I've always wanted to understand how things work and why they are the way they are. And so that's problems, that's people, that's everything that has pushed me to learn more, do more, have that resilience and ambition is because I just want to know. And I think it's really important to keep that curiosity. It's what keeps you flexible and adaptable. It's what keeps you wanting to learn and grow. So that's why I went with curiosity.
Yeah, I'm looking right at you, Naisha. Yeah.
I didn't share because my word was already shared. I picked the word resilient. And that's just because I'm someone who is very, very open to change. And, given my identity and my aesthetic, in most of the spaces that I'm in, people don't have an expectation for me to speak, nor do they want to. And that's not just in cross-racial spaces, that's also in spaces that are all Black. because we're constantly facing anti-Blackness, right, in both race and colorism. And so with that, I'm very mindful in particular to take up space, right? And I do that in my career in a way that's very, very intentional. So, and I do that with a lot of pushback, which is why I chose the word resilient, because society tells women that they should operate in a certain bubble. And I don't subscribe to that.
Okay. Well. Bunny!
I also chose resilient. I'll change my word though. I went to ambitious, but I think somebody said ambitious. So Marie said ambitious. I'll say strong. Strong. I'll choose strong because I think I'm strong in body. I've always been an athlete and I've always been excited about pushing the limits of my physical body to do things in athletics. I think I'm strong in spirit. I have a very strong faith and it's gotten me through pretty much everything, even before I knew what faith was as a child. I think that spirit inside me led me and spoke to me and carried me. And in mind, I've always, one of the other great advice, words of advice that I got was from my dad. And he always told me to fill my mind. And what he meant was, back to that foundation and that value of education, he said, always fill your mind, always learn, always grow, always have a growth mindset, because your education is the only thing that nobody can ever take away from you. And I don't, of all the other things that people could take from us as women of color, from us as women, from us just as humans in the world, because it's a rat race and everybody's trying to climb on top, they cannot take the knowledge that you take in. They can't take that from you. So I think I'm pretty strong in mind in that sense too. And not that I'm the smartest person in the world or the most intellectual, but it's that I have a thirst for knowledge. I'm always reading, I'm always researching, I'm always listening, observing, trying to grow, because I think anything that I can learn and take in is going to make me better. And it's also going to give me the ability to grow other people and make them better.
Well, thank you. I believe we're down to 2. Who can it be? Where's my dice?
I was part of the Resilient Club. So, I resonated with everyone, but especially with Rochelle, as far as doors being closed and it being motivation. I've never been knocked down and stayed down for long, just get right back up and keep on pushing. I think hustling was the word too earlier, definitely keep hustling. But also thinking of, the women that came before me. It's all resiliency. I think of my mom, I think of my grandma, I think of my mentors. It's all resilient women that never let, those closed doors stop them. And they were able to teach me the same.
But last, but certainly not least, Ms. Baez.
Yes, sir. I didn't pick one because there were so many good ones, but I'm gonna jump on the resiliency bandwagon tonight, because I think that as female leaders, that is just ingrained in us. That is just one of those things that you just have to have. And I remember a million years ago, it feels like, when I told a male leader I wanted to be the executive director of the Dorchester Y, and he said, "You don't have the skills." And I said, "Oh, is that so?" And I found out what those skills were that I needed, and I came back as exactly that, as the executive director of the Dorchester Y. And it was one of those conversations when someone told me, "You can't do it." And it was well, hold my coffee, because, oh, yes, sir, I can. And he will tell you to this day, I'm the best hire he ever made. So it was exciting to be able to be resilient and not find myself lost in that space of you can't do this, because I could have and I didn't. And that's why I sit where I sit today. So
and there you have it. So before we go to our last question, where that after that question, we're gonna open it up to the audience. They want to type something in the chat. They want to ask, please ask away. But before we go into that, why not stick to that cereal theme? Apple Jacks or Cheerios?
Apple Jacks.
Honey Nut Cheerios?
Cheerios.
Honey Nut Cheerios.
Honey Nut Cheerios, yes.
Okay, that's cool. You know, put the little P. Diddy remix in there. Honey Nut Cheerios, okay. Not a problem, not a problem. Okay, so here's the question. The question goes as such. What advice do you have for young girls and women coming up now in this society where they can be influenced by so many distractions, adversity, and obstacles? So once again, what advice do you have for young girls and women coming up now in this society where there can be so many influence by so many distractions, adversity, and obstacles? What's your advice?
This one's burning for me.
All right.
This one's burning. This is my burning one. It is. It's hot. It's hot. Antidepressants. So for me, and you know, it's stay true to who you are. So as you are in any career, what doesn't matter what it is, you get feedback. And I remember feedback was always like, I needed to tone it down. Like, you just need to tone it down a little bit. And I listened to that feedback, but that Andrea would always kind of pop back up because that's who I was. I was always the way that I am. So I'm super passionate about things that I care about. I work every day to try to make the world a better place, specifically for young people. And what I realized was, as I reflect back on my time in Boston, is what made me so successful there was I was just who I was. So I went out and I loved everything. I loved everything about my community. I loved everything about my community partners. I loved everything about the members and the kids and the programs. And as I transitioned out of that role and into the role I'm in now, all the feedback I got then was, we are going to miss that love, that excitement, that the doors open and your eyes are wide and you're like, woohoo, what are we going to do today, Dorchester Y? And whether it was with community partners or whether it was with somebody else, it was that. And to get that feedback made me feel like I kind of cheated myself in my career previously by not doing that. So just stay true. Stay true.
I would say other people's opinions of you are not your concern. Don't concern yourself with what they think of you. Find your tribe. Find people who are deserving of your energy. Find people who are like-minded and grow with them. People are in your life for reasons, seasons, and lifetime. Find that lifetime tribe, right? Other people's opinions of you, not your concern.
Yes, Rochelle.
I made a list.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I made a list because this is burning for me. I have a 12-year-old daughter, a 21-year-old daughter, and a 16-year-old daughter. And they will tell you that mommy likes to give advice. So I had to write a list for this. And I came up with my top 9 words of advice for young women. And the first I already shared, which is know thyself and love thyself. Number 2 is be intentional about who you keep company with. Somebody once told me, make sure you keep people around you who are assets and not liabilities. If you want to keep going, particularly as a woman in this world. And that's speaking of your friendships, your colleagues, your mentors, your sponsors, the partner that you choose, all of that is super important. Be intentional about who you keep company with. Be grateful, be observant, and I would say listen more than you talk. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. This goes back to listening not only to the people in your tribe, but other role models, trusted colleagues, sponsors, mentors, the people who want to see you win. I would say number 5 is network and lift others as you're doing that. Networks are really important, and networking with women, of course, is important, but networking with men also. We're all in this business world, and we need allies on every side to lift every angle of every agenda. Be flexible and adaptable. I would say compete, but compete only with yourself, right? I think especially for women, the world, and certainly the business world, tells us that there's only room for 1 or 2, that we can't all sit around the table. And if you have a seat at the table, don't pull up that chair for that woman coming behind you, because she's going to take your seat. And it's a lie. There are enough seats for all of us at the table. And we have to compete with ourselves so that we can better ourselves and get better at bringing other women along. Number 8 is work hard and don't cut corners. So that doesn't mean work longer and harder. That still means work smarter, not harder. But really hard work and not cutting corners to get ahead does pay off in the end. You'll get further ahead if you don't cut corners. Number 9 is treat people well. With kindness and respect, every single person that you run into at every level of your organization, treat them with respect. It sort of goes back to that cliche of you don't know who the angel is before you. Everybody deserves our respect. And even, another thing my dad said is go high, always go high. So that doesn't mean that because you treat people with respect and kindness that they're going to reciprocate it. It just means treat people with respect and kindness. Always go high, even if it's not reciprocated. And I guess I have a little extra 10 that I just thought of. And number 10 would be take time to be creative and pursue your passions and outlets. So if you're only working all the time, you're only always reading to get ahead or to know your craft, or to be at the top of the food chain at your job, but you're not feeding kind of that outlet and caring for yourself and thinking about your wellness. For example, my outlet is basketball. In COVID, I can't play pickup ball. It's really hard. And I sort of say that tongue in cheek, right? Because there's so many challenges that we're all facing in COVID right now. But all of that to say, if you paint, if you write, if you take, if you're a photographer, take pictures. But I think it's really important that we as beings have that creative outlet. And I should really at this point turn the floor over to Rochelle, because I think she could speak this with better articulation than I do, given what she has founded and what she's doing. But I think that we all have that intrinsic passion, purpose, creative spirit inside us. And if we let that flame die, everything else that we're trying to do is going to die too.
Well, all right. With this being said, I want to give obviously the opportunity for those that are in the studio live audience, if they have any questions that they may want to ask, please type in the chat so that your questions can be answered. I'll give you a little bit of time, like 20 seconds. If you want to type something in there, we can kind of take a look. So it's off scripted. I'm done with my cereals. So just to let you all know. And if there isn't, again, I want to thank everyone that came out this evening, especially our great, amazing, stupendous, remarkable, amazing panelists that came together in order to express, share, and give their own take of who they are, where they're from, and especially in this month, for Women's Month, to give back. And for all those audience goers that are listening and that definitely want to take away some nuggets that they've shared, they, meaning the panelists, have shared, it goes a long way. I've been recording as well in my mind, you know, some of these moves and how you moving and shaking and what have you. So definitely I'm putting that in my back pocket as well. Many of you, obviously, many of you I'm very familiar with. Some of you may even be a relative, who knows? With that being said, I definitely, oh, whoa, time out. We got a question. What is one example of what support looks like from Black women within your spaces? So I guess, what is one example of what support looks like from Black men, right? So I'll say it again. What is one example of what support looks like from Black men within your spaces?
I can speak to that.
Okay.
Sorry, everybody, the lights went out on me. My most personal example is my husband. So my partner, he is phenomenal. He is a strong, faithful, educated Black man, and he supports me as a partner and as a father. And, you know, when I said be really mindful and very intentional about who you choose to keep around you, I'm not certain, even with my ambition and my resilience, that I would have achieved what I have and gotten as far as I have without that closest person who is the witness to my journey, supporting me through it all. You know, I'm not a great parent on my own. I am not a great executive on my own. I am not, you know, a great friend, mother, anything else. And that speaks directly to my husband because he's the closest, most personal, you know, day in and day out, sees the ugly and, you know, the nice. But that speaks to all the people, my sisters, my closest friends, my friend colleagues. It's really important for all of them. But as a Black man in this country, my hat goes off to him every day because he goes above and beyond.
Can I jump in on this, Bonnie? I'm sorry, you were sharing something and it became a burning for me. So I want to actually share two things and answer this question. One, in terms of the advice, and it leans into the other question. So I'm a firm believer, advice that I was given was 50% of your quality of life depends on the person you choose to live it with. Choose wisely. That was advice given to me by my father, and it was something that stuck with me. And then the other piece of advice was people would always share with me, I'm a mother of two, don't take a job. When you have a new baby, don't take a new job. And I am totally against that advice. If you have an opportunity to get a job, I would say don't take a new job that is a lateral move. But if you are able to go to the next level on a job and perhaps have more flexibility, do that. Given those two pieces, in terms of the support that I would have from the support a Black man could give. So in the home, of course, it would be my husband, and the fact that we share parental responsibilities. They are truly shared. Meaning like our good night routine, he does Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I do Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, we both do Sunday together. That's how it works. It's been for 10 years. you need your own flexibility, your own time to go out and do you. So this framing of like, what is in the house is ours and not just mine is super helpful. In terms of outside of the home, Black men being very supportive and being sponsors. So really checking what society has put on all of us, to be very kind of lean into patriarchy, really checking that and being mindful when there's an opportunity that a woman can fill, or when you can create space for women in your professional life, actually doing that and sponsoring a woman or mentoring a woman. I have found it to be very helpful for my life.
All right. As far as continued questions, almost such as an auction, going once, going twice, sold. So we are done with the questions. Again, we wanted to thank everyone, but definitely first person I want to thank is Dre Woodbury, who has been behind the scenes putting together all the technical support, the media layout. He's never in the video, unlike P. Diddy, all in the video. He is not in the video, but he is making it happen. And so with that being said, thank you, Dre Woodbury, for making the music, the graphics, the glitz, the glamour, making things pop, all of that. Now, with that being said as well, it wouldn't be right. It wouldn't be just. It wouldn't be proper if I didn't get the man, the legend, the military hero, our chapter president, Jim Jones, to close us out, give us a word or two or three, along with some of the other panelists that will be here on Thursday that have joined us this evening. Hey, good to see you all. And hopefully this panel of Tuesday, within your schedule, if it works, maybe we'll catch you on Thursday as well, to hear from the other panelists. So with that being said, Jim Jones.
Hey folks, good evening. First, I'd like to offer my apology for getting onto the call late. We're renovating our house, and one of the contractors was here walking through the job and bidding on it. So he took about 20 minutes longer than he was supposed to. And I finally had to throw him out the door. So I apologize. But I will say that for the time that I was able to spend with you folks, I stole some nuggets. I did write some things into my phone that I could remember from Bonnie's list. And I thought that list could be used by anyone, including myself, to become a better person and a stronger person. So I appreciate that, Bonnie. Thank you very much. But this was outstanding. And I hope to see many of you on the Thursday night call. Great job, Francois. Great job, Dre, and great job by all the panelists. Truly appreciate it.
And in customary fashion, we're going to leave with a little bit of music. And just to let you know, of course, we're not out of town. We're actually early. And for those that want to hang around for a little post-panel discussion, feel free to do as such. It'll be light, just hanging out, talking for a little bit, as they say, shooting the stuff. I try to keep it G-rated, shooting the stuff. You know what I mean? So if you want to hang out a little bit longer, and that goes to everybody, anybody who's on here and you want to hang out, please do as such. With that being said, again, everyone, thank you for being on this evening. And may you, if you're not at home, hopefully you're traveling safely. If you are at home, enjoy your evening, and hopefully you get yourself some supper. And there you have it. Thank you again, everybody. Dre, take us out. And here we are. And here we are. The magical